Welcome to this week's episode. I thought it would be important to say a few words. We just recently learned of the passing away of a very bright light in the aviation industry. And we wanted to talk about some of the many things that we were lucky enough to learn from Jeremy Cox in the time that we knew him. So I'm Paula Williams.
John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help everybody out there in the aviation world sell more of your products and services.
Absolutely. And anyway, we just learned this week of the passing of Jeremy Cox, and I think everybody in the industry probably knows Jeremy, and he's one of the most loved figures, whether people agree with him or not, in the aviation industry. But I wanted to share some of the things that we learned from Jeremy, and I don't think there is a single sales course that we offer in which we don't share an example that we learned from Jeremy.
Probably true.
Yeah, we're talking about Jeremy all the time, and we were always learning something. Every time we got a call or a text or a conversation or a dinner with Jeremy, it was always a gift. So, 10 things we learned from Jeremy Cox. Right? Okay. Number 1, use your phone.
Yeah, he did that.
He did that. There was a time, and I've told this story a lot in our courses and podcasts and things, but there was a time when we flew into, actually we didn't fly into, we drove into the Spirit of St. Louis Airport to visit with Jeremy and Debbie and the rest of the folks at Jet Brokers at the time, and had lunch with Jeremy and Debbie at a lovely Italian restaurant there. And he said, well, who else are you meeting with while you're here in St. Louis? And I said, just you guys. We're just here for you. And he's like, well, that's crazy. And he got out his phone and he called everybody in the Spirit of St. Louis Airport and said, I have Paula and John here. They do marketing for us, and I'd like you to meet them. And he took us around and personally introduced us to about 7 different people that we caught in the office that afternoon.
Yeah.
And, he basically chewed me out for not having done this myself. If you're going to a city, by all means, pick up the phone, let people know you're coming, make appointments or don't make appointments, and drop in on them.
Right.
And he is absolutely fearless, and everybody knew him, and everybody would take his calls, and everybody would let him drop in to whatever was going on in their office. And that was just, anyway, a fantastic lesson for me, being, somebody that...
It's part of his persona.
Yeah, exactly. Number 2, and this is kind of a corollary, is take the time to connect with people. A lot of times I get really busy doing work. And so then somebody calls and I'm like, I'm in the middle of something. Can I call you back? Jeremy never did that. Never did that. He always, whoever was on the phone was the most important person in the world. And whoever, showed up was the most important person. He was always present, whether it was a phone call or in person or whatever. And, I think that was quite a lesson.
Yes.
Number 3, know at least one great restaurant in every city you do business in.
Yep.
And that was a lot of cities for Jeremy.
Yes, it was.
He did business in Europe and the Middle East and Asia and all over the world, as far as I know, and always knew where to go and what to order and all of that. And, was always a great entertainer for that reason. And life's too short to eat bad food, right?
Yes. And he would tell you if their choice of restaurants was good.
Right. Exactly. We went to a place called Gourmandi's in Salt Lake City. And, Salt Lake City is not really known as a foodie paradise. It's kind of simple. But, I thought it was great. And we went there with Jeremy, and I was educated on the different types of custard used in proper eclairs. And that was really fun. But even when he was not totally blown away or impressed, we really had a great time. And he was very generous in that way. Thing number 4 is speak. Every opportunity you get, he was teaching classes for a bunch of different institutions and organizations. Mm-hmm. He was doing keynotes at every event. He was doing a lot of speaking, and he was so recognizable that his face became his brand.
Right.
In fact, we did a caricature for him that he used in his marketing for a long time. And he also used photographs and things like that. He was not shy. And that's one thing that can't be copied. A lot of things can be copied, but your face, if you are famous, and the way that he became famous was by doing a lot of speaking and doing a lot of events.
Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of networking and everything else after the events.
And that's sort of rolls into the next one, which is everybody's important.
Yes. And they may not be important to the objective that's foremost in your mind right now, but they are important in some way in the future. So, you want to make sure that you give everybody the time and space to know them, to really know them. And, this is so unusual these days when everything is so fast on social media and everything else. He gave people a lot of time and space, so that's a wonderful thing. Number 6, put yourself in the other person's shoes and find a way to help them. And I got a lot of calls from Jeremy where he's like, this person needs help, right? Take the man's money and solve his problem. Give him a call right now. And, so he was always thinking in terms of sales, but he was also foremost thinking in terms of, this person has a problem. How can we help that person? And who do I know that can help that person? So, every time he had a conversation with somebody and they related a problem, he would be on the phone trying to solve that problem for them and find the right person to help them find a solution.
Yep. And the next one, which rolls in from the previous, is connect people to each other.
Yeah. Jeremy was always introducing people. I don't think a time ever went by when we were at a networking event or anything else that he didn't introduce us to at least 3 people and introduce those 3 people to at least 3 people and so on. And, those networks, a lot of people are kind of closed. They keep their connections close to the vest in the industry. They don't want to share their connections. But Jeremy was the absolute opposite. If he knew of somebody that could be of help in any kind of situation, he was always making those kinds of introductions and doing that. And even people who are in the same business as he was, aircraft appraisers, who you would think would be his competitors. He said there's plenty of business for everybody, which there is. He was as busy as he ever wanted to be. It's just a matter of making those connections and making those phone calls and introducing people to each other. Number 8, speak your mind. We didn't
Which you have no problem doing.
That is true. And, on any topic, Jeremy was just very
prolific.
Free. Exactly. To share his opinion. And, that really, I guess the other side of that is he was also not disrespectful in the way that he did it.
Oh, no.
He was
Never.
just like, I don't disparage anybody that doesn't agree with me, but dang it, this is what I think. And this is just, he did disparage a lot of politicians, a lot of issues, a lot of other things. He had a lot of very strongly and deeply held opinions and was not afraid to share them.
Right.
Right. Number 9 is kind of a corollary for that. There was a time when I kind of was twisting Jeremy's arm to get into social media because being a marketing person, being 2020, I thought that this was the thing to do. As it turns out, social media is not for everybody.
And you can succeed without it.
And you can succeed without it. And, Jeremy didn't have accounts on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I think he stayed on LinkedIn longer than anything, but eventually he got rid of all of it because it just wasn't his style. He was so much on the phone and in person that he didn't need it, and he didn't like it, and he got too carried away on some political stuff every time. And I have that problem too. Every once in a while, I get set off on a tangent and go down a rabbit hole, but it is not for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. So that was another thing that we learned from Jeremy.
And with the last thing, which we knew anyway, was to love people.
Yeah. And he had no problem with saying that. It was something that he would do. That's no matter how contentious the conversation was. He would always say, "Love you, Paula," and hang up. Really appreciate you and everything else. And he always ended on a positive note, no matter what we've been talking about or what was happening. And he very, very deeply loved his wife Kim. And, was just absolutely so complimentary of, how she was part of his life and everything else. So that's amazing. And he's a great example.
He just got there ahead of us.
Yep, exactly. So we look forward to meeting up with him and him introducing us around heaven someday. Anyway. Thank you for joining us for this very special episode, and thank you for indulging our craziness.
Yep.
All right. Have a great week. And
see you later.
Take care of each other.